Joyful giving, 2 Corinthians 8, 1 through 5. We want you to know, brothers, about the grace of God that has been given among the churches of Macedonia. For in a severe test of affliction, their abundance of joy and their extreme poverty have overflowed in a wealth of generosity on their part. For they gave according to their means, as I can testify, and beyond their means of their own accord, begging us earnestly for the favor of taking part in the relief of the saints. And this, not as we expected, but they gave themselves first to the Lord, and then by the will of God to us. Paul's relationship with the Corinthian church was extremely difficult. His 2 letters to that fellowship of believers represented some of his most direct and corrective writings in Scripture. Among the causes was a group in the congregation that rejected Paul's apostolic authority and refused to heed his biblical guidance away from sin. To that end, Paul vigilantly prompted the Corinthians to pursue Christ-likeness. One of the areas that he was particularly sure to spur them on to completion was the matter of the contribution for the suffering church in Jerusalem. Faithful giving to the contribution is referenced in multiple letters. The amazing thing about the contribution was that Paul, as God's called apostle to the Gentiles, was urging Gentile believers to give to relief efforts for the church in Jerusalem due to the persecution they were experiencing at the hands of Jewish leadership. To encourage the Corinthians' faithfulness, Paul told them of generosity of the churches that were in Macedonia, like the Philippians, Thessalonians, and Bereans. The persecution of the believers in Macedonia that they faced was far worse than anything the Corinthian believers faced. In fact, where the Macedonian churches were destitute to the point of not being able to meet basic need, the Corinthian churches had considerable means. Still, it was the Macedonians whose generosity became known far and wide, to the point that they begged to be allowed to give even more. The cause for the Macedonians' joy in giving, as Paul made clear, was their understanding of the grace of God that had been extended to them in Jesus Christ. Their joy was so great that they had to be restrained from giving to their detriment. May our own desire to worship God with our whole lives be as fervent. Now think of a time in your life when you wanted to express deep gratitude to someone. What was the manner you chose to express that gratitude? Why did you pick that method? The generosity of the Macedonians became the way that they were identified by Paul. What defining characteristic would those who know you well identify you by? Just something to consider.